Hello everybody, you're watching NDTV. Days after the Air India crash near Ahmedabad, it's now been revealed that one of the plane's black boxes was damaged, and authorities will take a call soon on the best way to retrieve data that's crucial to this investigation. Now, many Air India flights have since then been grounded for various reasons. This is after the crash, and there's a lot of caution in the approach now, with specific emphasis and checks on maintenance, also checks on emergency equipment in aircrafts. The government is now tightening safety rules, especially around tall buildings near airports. But serious questions are also being raised about regulatory lapses and delayed action. The question that remains, of course, is why did it take a deadly crash like this for authorities to wake up to basic aviation safety failures? Former Aviation Minister and NCP MP Praful Patel joins us now. Thank you, Mr. Patel, for your time on NDTV. You've been the Aviation Minister in the past, and you've been on that hot seat looking at these issues from very close quarters. It's been over a week since the crash happened. How do you look at the pace of investigation that is on and all the action that has been taken since then?
Well, as you rightly said, 10 days into the crash, we all grieved our colleagues who have lost their precious lives, and just pray that even those who are unwell, those who are injured on the ground, get well soon. But I think the pace of investigation has been very satisfactory, because within the span of 24 hours, we had the NTSB team from the US, the Boeing team from the US, as well as our own Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, visiting the spot immediately almost, and taking charge of the entire protocol which is required to investigate such a crash. And well, I think there will be an investigation completed in 3 months, as has been told. Sometimes these things take longer because all possible scenarios have to be, investigated, because there is always, something hypothetical, and that should be ruled out to the maximum extent possible. And I'm sure, this will be done. Not to say that the NTSB or Boeing alone or the GE team alone would be solving the puzzle. Our AAIB is also equally competent and has all the equipment to deal with such scenarios and come out with a proper report after the investigation is over.
Right. Mr. Patel, how long do you think investigations like this last? You've also seen investigations like this during your career. Now they're talking about damage to the black box, and officials here are saying that they could actually take a call on whether there's any need to have the black box examined at an international lab. What kind of changes has our aviation sector seen in the last 10 years, specifically when it comes to investigating accidents like we have seen last week?
Now, let me tell you that till 2008, we did not have the Accident Investigation Bureau. We had just the DGCA or some experts, trying to decipher if at all there was an accident. But since 2008, as per the ICAO protocol, India also has established its AIB, and which is, I'm sure, functioning very satisfactorily. It's been many years since I've left, but I know for sure that all the protocols, even the equipment, testing equipment is in place. Well, there could be a serious damage to the black box, which I am not aware. But having said that, black box itself, which is orange in color actually, is designed to, withstand high temperatures, high impact, everything, all the possible scenarios. It's usually made out of titanium or the stainless steel, which I don't know the exact configuration, how this has been designed on the 787. But I can only say one thing, that our own capability is there, but probably to rule out any, safety margin in case that the black box is damaged, maybe the US has some more advanced facilities, or Boeing has probably more facilities. And I'm sure it doesn't really matter whether it's being opened in the US or it's being decoded in India. At the end of the day, what we really want to know is what went wrong.
Right. Mr. Patel, also this has been a very tough week for Air India. First this crash happened, and then we saw multiple flights also being grounded. there are these basic questions, right from the quality of seats, broken seats, to very basic things such as passenger safety. Air India itself is facing the questions over multiple leveled turbulence, is what I would say, because in terms of ownership, there are also questions of performance, accountability. How should Air India move forward in this case? What should Air India ideally what should Air India ideally do to ensure that its reputation does not really face a very big setback?
Well, any such situation, obviously, all kinds of, different kinds of criticism do come in, and understandably so. But at the same time, it also is a learning curve, just in case they have missed out on some protocols, which I don't really think so. Air India, irrespective of the ownership today or in the past, has always been, completely safety-driven, protocol-driven. They follow every single process which has been prescribed either by the manufacturer or by the DGCA. And there is no real reason. Actually, now I've been seeing in the last few days, every day there is some incident reported about this flight being cancelled, or that flight has some, technical issue. Well, if on a normal day, we would have probably not even noticed it, nor would it have been reported. But just because one major crash has happened, unfortunately, everything then gets amplified. But I would like to say that definitely India does follow very good safety protocols, DGCA, and I'm sure Air India itself, I mean, whatever I remember from the past, Air India has also had very unfortunate incidents, tragic incidents, accidents, and they have been able to, learn from them, overcome those kind of issues. And I'm sure even in the current context, unfortunately though, Air India will be able to ride out of this current crisis, a crisis of confidence, I would say, because I would know that I've got calls from so many people, asking me, is it safe to fly on Air India? Are Air India's, processes, safety protocols in place, maintenance is good or not? And I can tell you, and I have no hesitation in saying this, that if I were to fly a 787 Dreamliner today, I would be the first person to say, fine, I'm on. There's no real issue. I wouldn't even worry for a second. It's what has happened. Of course, only time will tell whether it's, some kind of a failure of a machine or man or whatever. But these are all hypothetical things. Should not really be, talking too much about it until we actually have the full report. And I can tell you that Air India itself has got very, very, very good technical people over the years. The legacy has been very strong in Air India.
Right. Mr. Patel, you're also talking about crisis of confidence. This is also the time when the passengers' confidence is at the lowest. People are in fact checking news updates, the kind of aircraft, etc. before flying. How can one really boost that? Because there are more flyers than the country has ever seen, and that is also very crucial for India's growth story. How are you looking at? How should the government look at boosting passenger confidence when it comes to the aviation sector?
No, I think you're right that there is a confidence level which has been shaken badly, but that can be easily restored. Also, I feel that there needs to be better communication, both by Air India and by all the airlines of the country put together, even by the DGCA. And I can also sense that this is a time when any vacancies in DGC especially, or even by the airlines in terms of their engineering or safety department, should be filled up immediately. And just filling up on vacancy by headcount doesn't really, be important alone. You see, in aviation parlance, either it's 100% safe or zero. There's nothing like 99.9%. And therefore, bringing in all the people who are important in terms of regulating the entire sector, those vacancies by experienced people should be filled up immediately. I also want to just, on a side note, since we're talking of safety, in the last few 6 weeks alone, we've had 5 helicopter crashes, all in the pilgrimage Chardham area. And that also, brings to the fore that we need to put very strong, controls and checks and balances over flying conditions. because the operators also take chances. The pilots also sometimes are confident or overconfident. They think that, oh, we can navigate through the mountains or the clouds, and we know our way. And six or five accidents in 6 weeks is a lot of number. And there's another aspect that there is no maintenance real facility. A small hangar or something should be put up, and wherever these pilgrimage helicopter operations are, because if there is a problem, they need to be placed to technically, solve the problem to make it fly worthy again. And sometimes, I'm not blaming anybody, but there could be shortcuts which need to be avoided. And even that also shakes up the confidence. After all, anything falling off the sky does, rattle people.
That's a very important insight, Mr. Patel. Also, when we're talking about air safety, how do you also think about bringing those long-term reforms that people keep talking about, be it vacancies that you just talked about, pilot rosters, because pilot exhaustion is something that people are talking about now, more players in the aviation sector, because even before the crash, there's been so much that was talked about, the enormous prices of flying. I know that this might not be the right time to talk about this, but, especially pilot rosters, or the fact that we don't have that many options. The passenger today, the one that's flying, does not really have that kind of options. How do you look at those kind of reforms, sir?
Aviation is a very challenging sector. It may sound very, glamorous and very easy to, get into, but it is a very, very, I would say, a demanding sector where, especially when it comes to safety, the amount of protocols, the trainings, and other expenses which go into setting up an airline are not easy. Just to start an airline sounds easy, but not to run it and maintain it for a longer period. And therefore, I think at every level, I'm starting from not only setting up the airline, but in terms of more investment in trainings, more investment in maintenance, more investment, even I would say in engineering, because we need very high class engineers to work all the time on aircraft. We also need to have very strict regulatory things like DGCA. I don't think we really need more legislation because it's already there. And if at all there's any requirement to improve on legislation, the International Civil Aviation Organization does, have regular meetings with member countries. And in case there is some, legislative requirement, I think India at the moment complies with every possible legislative compliance as laid down by ICAO. Also, the fact that we are audited also regularly by the US FAA, and we comply to the highest standards. So I only feel that maybe staffing could be an issue which should be addressed immediately, and staffing not by just headcount, but by quality headcount. Also, the fact that pilot trainings and even whatever, the fatigue issues or other things which are there should be a more robust dialogue between all stakeholders and understand if at all there are any issues, and those should be resolved. But to say that, just have more players, it's not just about quantity of players, it's about quality of players. And I think the current two big aviation players in India, as well as the other ones, which are, the next in terms of size, they all have good protocols. And I would say that by and large, I mean, see, an accident is a very sad thing, and therefore every type of, as I said, criticism is laid bare. But I'm sure there's something to learn from this and to improve from that. And India's track record, well, it's been very, I would not say great, but it's not been in any way less than probably the most advanced countries like the United States or any other country in Europe, where we do have a safety record which is quite okay, quite good. And we also have very, very good overall safety standards and monitoring. But my last word to people would be, please do not be scared of flying. And it's still the safest mode of public transportation. Even in India or anywhere in the world, you sit on a plane, your chances of having something going wrong are really very, 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 very rare. You really are one of the real unlucky ones if you really encounter some major problem. Otherwise, it is really the safest and probably the best managed public transportation anywhere in the world.
Praful Patel, there, India's ex-aviation minister, sounding optimistic about India's aviation sector, saying that India's aviation sector is probably amongst the most compliant sectors in the country. He says that there's no need to fear when you fly, but of course there is always room for a lot of reforms. Thank you, Mr. Patel, for your time.